The decisions being made by these crown corps, it's so crazy. Your money, and you are taking part of your earnings and you're handing it to CBC. And then when you find out that CBC is just going into deficit endlessly, but then the next year's budget is projecting more spending, which is more of our money. So there's a crown corp, taxpayer dollars, where we are paying for CBC to function and grow, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And like, we're talking billions of dollars.
I think it should be everyone's dream to be debt-free. When I said that, I bet you some people are thinking that's impossible. Our government does that though. That's how we've almost been trained to think. I think that's actually a mental break that we have to break through as citizens and as a country. Can you imagine a country that was debt-free?
I wasn't ready. You got to go on the third.
Yeah, well, it was three.
No, it wasn't. You went bam, bam, and then you went.
No, bam, bam, bam. Ready?
Great. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Come, everyone knows this. Can I get some backing up, please?
Where did you grow up, man?
Rock, paper, scissors, bam. There's your answer.
What is shoot?
That's when you finally show your results.
No, but you. No, that's, why shoot?
Rock, paper, scissors. You don't do it on the guys.
No, it's rock, paper, scissors. Why would you're literally saying the things that you're using to win this competition?
No, it's a 4-beat thing. Dun, dun,
but shoot is not even something you can use.
Get rid of the shoot.
So
the shoot is implying.
Can I use a gun when I say shoot?
No, the shoot is implying your action attack mode, whatever you do.
When you jump out of a bench to go play a hockey game or something, do you say, instead of go, go, go,
3, 2, 1, jump.
You jump.
Go. 3, 2, 1. Not, you don't jump on 1, you jump on the go, on the 0.
Goodness, Kate. Your kids do shoot?
I need input, people. Holy fuck.
No, it's rock, paper, scissors.
Bam, bam. No, it's not.
Duh.
Bam. Let's look this up.
I don't think there is.
I need some standardization here.
I think we just need people to let us know what they think.
Yeah, we need a crown corp here. Yeah. Okay. How do I type this in?
Can we just do this to start the show?
How to do rock, paper, scissors.
What's the proper way to play rock, paper, scissors?
All right, we got a WikiHow video.
To play rock, paper, scissors, try to play an item that beats your opponent's
item technique is so
in order
bad.
to win the game.
This is horrible.
First, learn the different hand
Give me the
motions
count. That's
for
all
the
I'm looking
items.
for.
You can tell I would
For
beat
rock,
them 10 times
make
out
a
of 10.
fist with your hand.
I want to hear people's take on this.
For paper, hold out your hand flat. For
It's not
scissors,
flat.
This is a bad video.
extend
Don't
your
trust
pointer
it.
finger and middle finger.
Sweet.
Next,
It's going.
learn which items beat each other. Rock beats scissors, scissors beats paper, and paper beats rock.
Thank you.
To play, find an
David,
opponent
focus.
and stand facing each
Don't
other.
trust it.
With
Facing
one
each
hand
other.
flat in front
To
of you.
play, find an
and your other
opponent
hand
and
making a
stand
fist
facing
on
each
your
other.
palm.
Watch, here's the
Then
count.
count down by saying rock, paper, scissors, shoot.
Ah!
On shoot,
Okay, you
play
found
either
one
rock,
video
I did it
to
blind.
support.
I
what
did
you're
it
scissors
thinking.
blind.
with your hand.
I didn't look this
Whoever
up. I
makes
didn't
the
know
winning
this.
item with
Rock.
their hand
Look at
wins.
this is
Okay, I'm
wiki.
on the
Both
website.
of you choose the
WikiHow.
same item, it's a tie.
WRPSA.com.
Thank
This
you.
is the
Play for
official
longer.
rules.
Keep track.
Apparently
All
it's
right.
the world
It's standardized.
website.
Watch. Oh, come on, guys. No feedback from anybody? Come on, let's rock.
Is there anyone out there who doesn't say shoot? Because I've never said shoot in my entire life. Rock, paper, scissors.
Shoot. It's you're missing the. No, you don't have to say the
Thank
word
you,
shoot.
Andrea.
It's the.
Andrea has
it's the
never said
count.
shoot either.
It's the count. It's the results.
What part of
Bam.
Winnipeg do you grow up in?
The ghetto.
No, I'm not going that route. I'm just trying to find out if it was different. Like I was in Charleswood. Maybe we had from different parts of town.
For sure we did. I was surviving.
Any Charleswood people out
You
there?
were thriving.
Winnipeg?
Okay, well, let's.
Yeah.
It feels so wrong to do it on
Phone
that
up or
count.
phone down? No, that's not, that's, my phone. That's not a good idea. Let's just do it one more time.
Okay.
But you can do it on shoot, and I'll do it on my on my count.
Okay, good. I'll react to yours.
I'll just do a little bit slower. Okay, ready?
Rock.
Rock.
Wait. This is the hardest rock, paper, scissors I've ever done in my life.
Rock, paper, scissors.
There it is. David does the intro.
No, you won. You had scissors.
So I get to choose.
No,
The loser has the penalty. How is
It's not
this?
the choice. It means you got to do it.
What are we talking about?
You're starting.
The loser has to do the thing that's not wanting to
Are
be
we
done.
recording already? All right, we're already into the
This
show.
is rough.
This is the longest intro ever.
That is the intro. There you go.
Okay,
Welcome to today's show.
Rock, paper, scissors. Welcome to Citizen.
Oh my word.
We both don't like starting the show, so
RPS
decides with no shoot.
I really need to hear the whole world's take on when they do.
I don't trust the video you chose. You cherry picked.
It's literally
You cherry picked one video
out of blindly, and it was exactly what I said.
Well, that's
and you didn't even find anything to back yourself.
Well, we're gonna ask.
Well,
we need an official count
yes,
from
we
people.
do.
Please add right now in the comments. Is it rock, paper, scissors, or is it rock, paper, scissors, shoot? That's so stupid. Shoot.
I have 3 kids. I guess that's the way they do it.
Do you trust your children on everything?
Well, I trust the world they're in, and I don't.
The world there. What did you get?
I don't know. It's like universal language of rock, paper, scissors. I don't know. It's never been controversial. I've never seen someone shoot.
I'm going to ask every random person I see today.
I know.
Don't
When you
lead
play
them
rock,
either.
Just ask them.
We're going to record this.
Say,
too.
let's play and see when they do it. Do it.
To the cashier at Sobeys.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's play rock, paper, scissors. Anyways, what are we talking about today?
There's lots. We bumped into the topic about crown corporations and government spending, and
also the idea of defunding the CBC.
Oh, yes.
Are they
Which is a crown
relevant? Is it a good use of your money, of my money, of your money?
Mm-hmm.
All that.
For sure. There's a video maybe we should start off on that sets the stage really well, but once you start realizing that the decisions being made by these crown corps, it's so crazy. So crazy. Your money, so you work, the person at home watching the show works, and you are taking part of your earnings and you're handing it to CBC. And then when you find out that CBC is just going into deficit endlessly, but then the next year's budget is they project more spending, which is more of our money. And then they go and give bonuses. And you and I bumped into a video yesterday of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, where they're suing, and we're going to be interviewing a guy about this later, where they're suing because they want to find out what the bonuses are. They're hiding what the bonuses are. So this is a crown corp, taxpayer dollars, where we are paying for CBC to function and grow, and it's just getting bigger and bigger. And we're talking billions of dollars. Yeah. And then they're also not sharing their bonuses. It's very odd behavior, and it's if the fact that they're not showing it should be a warning and a sign of they're not proud of it. They're hiding it.
Well, we have Franco Terrazzano coming on later from the Taxpayers Federation of Canada.
Canadian Taxpayers Federation.
There we go. Canadian Taxpayers Federation of Canada. Is that right?
Yep.
Rock, paper, scissors.
It is right.
He's going to tell us all the good stuff that he knows. He knows a lot of the details. But hey, just to expand on why this is important and why we should care, I think as Canadians, we all should expect fiscal responsibility. And this isn't just a symptom of the current government. A lot of these crown corporations have been around for a while.
Fiscal. What does fiscal mean? I know.
Money. I know you know what it means, but you're asking.
I'm just saying though. Sometimes
fiscal responsibility means that we just need to be responsible with how we spend our money. You live in your house. If you spend more and more and more and more every month, no one's bailing you out. Yeah. You eventually are going to end up on the street, right?
Just apply to become a crown corp. No,
that's the way to do business. Apparently, that is the way to do business. If you can get in,
become so big that they can't afford you to fail. That's the problem. That's the thing is like, I guess that's the real rooted issue here.
Or the cronyism side of things too.
In my opinion, that's the real issue is that obviously, I guess there's a role for crown corps, and that's what I'd love to wrestle with today. I'd love to ask Franco Terrazzano. There's the crown corps come in what they believe to be infrastructure critical.
Yeah.
What's the word?
Well, they hit certain things that are needed in our country. For example, you've got Canada Post, you got Via Rail, CMHC.
Via or Via?
I don't know. I think it's Via.
I'm just in this role of correcting you now. I think it's Via.
You're not correcting me.
No, I mean, the rock, paper, scissors just sets the stage for complete...
It's a wrong opinion.
Incompetence. I don't trust anything anymore. If you can't get that, I don't know. I got to figure that out. We got to set the standard.
We are more divided than ever.
Don't trust this guy. Via Rail. Anyway.
Via Rail. Are you taking Via or
I think
Via?
It's Via.
Or is it VIA?
I don't know.
Anyways, these are all Crown Corps. Crown Corp, and just to give a quick recap, we've got lots of different Crown corporations in Canada. It's not like it's a bad thing.
Yep.
But traditionally, it becomes bad when you've got, like you're talking about, bloated. You have bloated budgets. You have giant salaries. You're losing money every single year. Our tax dollars goes to bail you out. Is it actually providing a service that Canadians need? And each company is going to have to argue for its own self. But there is a big thing for the last while, and Pierre Poilievre is running on this.
Oh, yeah.
Defund the CBC. And you see a lot of for and against it. So it's worth us chatting through our thoughts on that. But I think what it comes down to, and you know what we should do? We know what Pierre's running on for whenever the election ends up being. Let's find out once it actually happens, if he gets in the government, is he going to act on it? Is it possible for him to act on it? What's it going to take, right? It's obviously a giant employer too. Anyways.
Part of the problem too is also there's such a delay. There's such a delay for changes, and that's part of the problem, is that a lot of these things take 3 years to see results. So some of the stuff we're living in now is 3-4 years old from decisions made back then. There's a video here I want to play though.
Yeah.
Which kind of sets the stage. I'm going to pause it a number of times though. So if you're watching, stay with us. He's full of gems here, and he sets the stage nicely. So I'm going to pause and play and explain.
Inventions of ideology. They are. Deficits are not inventions of ideology. They are facts of arithmetic. The quicksand of compound interest is real. That was former Finance Minister Paul Martin when he released his budget in 1995. And the quicksand of compound interest is tugging Canada's finances under. Interest charges on the federal credit card will cost taxpayers more than $46 billion this year.
So if the federal credit card is not a credit card you can apply for. He's talking about essentially the debt load that Canada is holding, especially in what it's increased to. So just the interest that's servicing that debt.
So we are spending so much.
Let's
just say we are borrowing so much money. That's the proper term. We are borrowing so much money that there is interest owed on that. And the interest owed is
$46 billion annually right now. And he's going to talk about at this rate what it's going to get to. Yeah. But at this rate, we did the math. I'm going to pull this up. This is what's crazy. And this is our money, our taxpayer dollars, which is not going to critical infrastructure. It's not going to roads. It's not going to medical. It's not going to any social program of any kind. It's not relieving the poor. It's not feeding the hungry. It's not doing anything. $4 billion a month, which comes down to, we did it down. I'm going to do the math here exactly. I can't even fit it on my calculator, so I got to turn sideways. 4 billion.
No, it's 40 billion.
Sorry. 46 billion a year, he said.
A year.
So 46 divided by, these are such huge numbers, I have to count the zeros. 46 billion divided by 12 months is 3.8 billion a month, divided by 4 weeks is $958 million a week, divided by 7 days, $136 million a day, divided by 24 hours. So this is the hourly rate of burn is $5.704 million an hour. So this podcast is roughly every hour, 24 hours a day, as you sleep, day and night, nonstop, and growing.
That's not paying back debt. That's servicing
just holding
the excess spending. And again, this comes down to giant fiscal responsibility, being good with your money. Our government is not good with its money.
Such an unbelievable amount.
Remember this whole theory of the budget will balance itself.
It's ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous because we have just ballooned with debt, and this was what it's speaking to, is that we are at an unsustainable point where we keep going. And when we get into crown corporations, that's extra money going to these guys that we actually don't even have. We have to borrow, thus paying more, and it's our kids are going to actually have to handle this situation.
Totally. And so he goes on to explain something here, and maybe I'll let him do it. Yeah, I'll let him do it. Yeah, so let's keep watching. So that's our take on how much debt we are paying just to keep the debt.
Take it away, Franco.
That's almost $4 billion a month that can't go to improve services or lower taxes because it's going to the bond fund managers on Bay Street just to service the government's debt. And it's also a cost of more than $1,000 for each and every Canadian this year. And it's getting worse. Interest charges next year will surpass the federal healthcare transfers to the provinces. In a handful of years, interest charges on the debt will reach $61 billion. Now, what does $61 billion mean to you? Well, $61 billion is the same amount that the federal government will collect through its GST in 2028. So in a few short years, when you pay GST on a hockey stick or on the gas that you put in your car or just for a bar of soap, every penny paid through the GST will go to cover the interest charges on.
Which naturally, so think about that. So GST, government service tax, which is on every purchase we do, what's it, 5%? Yeah.
Yep.
It's currently 5% at the moment across the whole country. This servicing of the debt will equal the same amount that of all GST collected on every purchase of every Canadian in the entire nation on everything, every car, everything. So now they're balancing out, which is a problem, because now the debt will continue to get larger because it's becoming so burdensome. So what are they going to naturally do? Probably increase GST as well. So we're going to have not only are we paying for the interest to service the debt, we're probably going to have to pay more GST to try to stop this perpetual cycle of inflating debt.
Well, there is no doubt that taxes are continually on the rise everywhere.
Is
Like,
that true? I don't know that.
100% it is.
Obviously, it feels that way.
You look at
but
the
I
most
just don't
recent
know.
federal budget, and we'll get into this with another friend of ours, Martin Pelche, who's a brilliant finance guy. We'll break down the budget and break down. But you look at the new capital gains tax increase for people that our government is stating it's only going after the super rich. No, it actually affects everyday people. It affects you. It affects me. It affects... If I've got RSPs, if I've got things like that, it affects every single person.
Isn't it only the top? Like that. So Trudeau's pitch on that, though, was that it's if you have 2 houses and boats and 5 cars.
No, it's a complete lie.
Yeah.
I went through this video.
Oh, yeah.
This is a different episode. But I went through that video that Trudeau explains how it's not going to affect the nurse who makes $30,000 or $70,000 a year. It's only going to affect the hedge fund managers on Bay Street who make $800,000 a year, who use extra... It is a complete lie what he's saying. It is misleading, and he is not showing the proper truth. And we'll get into that with another one. My point in this is that the government is in a place, the way he ends the video, like this is good news. Guess what, everybody? It's going to create an additional $20 billion in revenue. No, what you should say is you're actually taking $20 billion from hardworking Canadians in profits that they somehow have made through either owning a home, or maybe they've got retirement funds. Maybe they've been handed down, their middle-class family that's been handed down a cabin from their parents, and they've had that cabin for 40, 50 years, and now all of a sudden they want to sell it because it's not working for them. Well, guess what? You're taking more money from them that, you know what, has a chance to help Canadians get ahead. So you're talking about 20, and they're in the constant cycle of we are spending so much. We just have to claw back as much as we can just to make it work. And they operate by modern monetary policy, which does not work. The premise is we can keep printing and spending money as long as taxpayers pay their taxes, but they're clawing more and more. Anyways, as we're getting to another episode, the point is what you're saying, the amount that we are pushing and spending and being irresponsible, we're just going to keep getting taxed and taxed and taxed and taxed. I think that was your point, right? Yeah. I'm trying to look for a chart here. So can you talk for like 30 seconds as I find a chart?
Talk about the
Well,
Titanic.
first, how do you find things you've saved on Twitter? Like,
I don't use Twitter.
You bookmark?
I have to start using it, but I don't.
I just found it. Okay, I want to show you
It's
here.
right there where you just clicked.
Yeah. Okay. So do we see this chart? Already showing where we are, Canada, compared to other G7 countries. You got Mexico.
Can you read it to me? I can read it.
Yeah. So Canada is the orange bar on the left.
Yep.
Personal income tax rates at 53.5%. So already the
so
highest.
That's the average? Must be.
Canada source. Yeah, it would be the highest tax bracket because people can have lower tax brackets if you make less.
Sure.
So, but you look at across the rest of the way how we already outnumber that. I want to show another one in terms. Great. You look at capital gains tax here. With the proposed change of what is happening. You look at Canada compared to the rest. Look at Mexico at 10%. You look at United States at 20%.
Even just
you look at China.
From first to second position, look at the difference.
Yeah. The reason why this... again, it comes back to how you want to operate as a country. Good ideas versus bad ideas.
Yeah.
When you have this type of thing where you have taxes that are going up and up and up, what you're actually doing, our current government will spin it as we get more money to spend on government programs. Well, we're talking about, we need to get back onto it, talking about the government programs they're spending on or they're using, for example, CBC and other stuff. Is that good or is it a waste of money? We have to answer those questions. But what you're also doing, when you start to do this and you start taxing the people beyond what they can afford, you start to have wealth leave your country
for sure
in hordes.
No question.
People who are wealthy and can figure out how to leave are going to leave because they want to be able to protect their wealth that they've created for their families. And what has helped countries gain and actually prosper? It is the idea of free markets, of people being able to prosper, knowing if I'm putting a lot of work into something, I want to prosper and profit from it so I can make a better life for my family, my loved ones, and I'm employing other people, I'm helping other people have better lives. But when the Canadian government stifles that with tax after tax after tax, you are screwing yourselves, you're screwing this country long term. People are going to be leaving, right? We talked about earlier. What's our get out of Canada point? We are not there yet.
Yeah.
But if we're at a point where you feel like your kids can't thrive or your kids can't have a future, if my kids can't have a future, I'll be looking elsewhere to where can we thrive as a family.
I want to make this point clear to you because I had a lot of criticism on this on our previous episode where we talked about that. We're not planning on leaving at all. I'm not planning on leaving. I'm fighting. We're here. We're doing this show. We're finding ways to critique and change and make a difference. We want to make this country incredibly great. I want to do everything we possibly can with all the organizations we assist in and content we create. I'm not leaving this country. But there still needs to be in your head, in whatever scenario you're in, this goes for everything, almost everything that you're involved in. There needs to be a boundary or a set of principles you live by. And if things get so close to those crossing those boundaries, you go, enough.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. I'm not planning on leaving. I'm staying in this country and I'm planning on living. But at the same time, too, we are seeing people leave this country. I was talking to my dad the other day. He's got an immigrant that came in 3-4 years ago and has already moved away because he was going, this isn't what I thought. We're being taxed like I can't live here. Can't even afford to do it. And so he's completely left. 4 years and he was going, why did I come here? It's not what it was supposed to be.
We're on the exact same page. That's the reason why we started doing this, is to have a conversation because we believe in Canada. We're not fleeing. We're not running. We're the type of guys that will probably fight to the very end. But under the notion of hope and plan for the best, but also plan for the worst.
Prepare for the worst.
And if you're unprepared that way, I don't want to be caught off guard. And I already know from following a lot of different investment firms and guys who are in that area, they're already starting to put out there, they're starting to sound the alarm of a lot of people and clients are starting to plan and look into where do I go, how do I leave, if we keep on going down the path that we're on. You and I ask that question all the time. If we keep down the path that we're on, what kind of country are we leaving behind? I want to show you a quick video. You ready for this?
I don't know if this is the safest clip to play on this show.
I'm not leaving.
I forgot about the F-bomb.
Show goes on.
The show goes on. This is my home.
We're not leaving.
That's why I do this. That's what this means. If you see me do this anywhere, the show goes on.
Okay. So, anyways, we talked about the debt that is getting crazy here. And again, why should people care? Do you know why? I'm asking you a question.
I was ready for what you're about to say. I was like, it's good. Why should we? Absolutely. I could go all day about it. The whole idea is that we've got to make sure we can. When we first moved to Alberta, the first year I moved here, I think you were here too.
Yeah.
You moved before me. There was a surplus given to all the Albertans. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
It was like $100. I don't remember what it was. $200-$300 to every single Albertan that lived here. And that was a province at the time that was run so responsibly, so well that they essentially said, hey, we overtaxed you guys.
Yeah.
And here you go back. What a dream that is to have a country. Imagine if the country could do that. We're so responsible that we're growing in wealth. If that was the result of it, our dollar would be getting stronger and stronger and stronger. Our buying power would be greater. We'd be drawing more investors in here. We'd be able to use our resources. The dream idea of it is that we would grow into a position of absolute strength, and everything would benefit because of it. Our quality of life, poverty would get better. There'd be less and less poverty. There'd be more resources being drawn, more jobs created, higher wages, lower housing. Like you'd create almost like you could go towards a utopian style. I know that's a far stretch. I get it, but I'm just saying we've lost grip of even what it could become. It feels like we're so far gone already in debt. Just keep overspending. And there are some philosophers who actually believe that there are some people who just actually want to incur debt in order to be reliant on government. And we're down that road. If you look at the current debt load we have and how quickly we've acquired it, Justin Trudeau has spent more debt. Actually, maybe we'll find the video. I'll find the video right now. But essentially, or maybe
the amount even during COVID and post-COVID, they have borrowed and incurred more debt
than every prime minister ever in existence before Justin
Canada
Trudeau. Combined, yeah. If you add them all together.
Combined. And that keeps growing every year. Right. And actually, if I remember correctly, I remember Prime Minister Justin Trudeau saying that the budget will be balanced in 2019, which has not happened. We just have a new federal budget that came out. What that means, balanced budget, is that we are going to spend what comes in. Right now, we are spending way more than what actually comes in. So we're forced to borrow to make up the difference, and that's not slowing down. And when you've got corporations on top of that, so lots of places government spends money. We need to have taxes let's get that clear. We need to have taxes. I do believe we all need to pay into taxes to be able to have the infrastructure and the things that we need in this country, right? When you got roads, you've got different things that go on. So I'm for that. I'm just completely against the how irresponsible that we have been as a country, and also, you know what, citizens are to blame if we are not the ones that are actually holding our government accountable. Is that how irresponsible we've been with the spending, because people don't understand the debt load because we're too concerned with our everyday life. But now we're starting to feel it in our pocketbook. That if you actually add up all the taxes that you get taxed, most people are taxed in the range of 40 to 50% on their income tax. Yeah. But then now you throw in GST on purchases, you throw in gasoline and all that tax on our fuel. We throw in carbon tax, which is now on our utilities. It's now on our fuel. It's in our capital gains tax, so that if you do have stocks or you have, so I'll give you a quick little capital gains thing that I'm dealing with right now. My wife and I, we bought a house in 2011 in Calgary, and we lived in it for...
It was your first house?
Our first house. Yeah, we were so excited for it. Lived in that for, 7-8 years. We decided after 7-8 years of living in there that we were going to move into another house. Yeah. But instead of selling that house, is that anyone can do this. We had some equity in it, which was great from the time that we had. We pulled on some of that equity by talking to the bank and used that to buy another house, turn that one into a rental property, which is fine.
Great.
It's been a rental since 2019. We decided to sell the rental property this past year. So you have a little bit of a gain in terms of the value of the home, and now we're dealing with capital gains. I don't have a problem with capital gains. I have a problem with continued raising of capital gains, because if it keeps going and going and going, then it's like, if I want to start getting into that and start to try to build a business where I can build wealth, well, my gains are going to become futile to actually go, and it's not worth my investment. Why would I want to buy homes?
Exactly.
Why would I want to invest in homes if I'm not?
If someone came up to you and said, "Hey, actually, you could go and invest in the States, and we have a 1/10 of the capital gains and a 1/10 of this," you'd go, "Well, yes, of course."
100%.
You'd easily shift your resources over. Yeah.
And then even a greater mentality of, which I think us as citizens need to embrace and ask ourselves, who do you want to be beholden to? The borrower is always beholden to the lender. Always. I think it should be everyone's dream to be debt-free. When I said that, I bet you some people are thinking that's impossible.
That's good.
Because we've become so inundated with debt, with tax.
And I understand that business strategy. There's a lot of people who operate on debt. I get it.
You can utilize it, but no, I'm talking not about that, because you can utilize it. But I'm talking about incurring debt where you have got no hope of actually living any other way. Yeah. Our government does that, though.
Yep.
That's how we've almost been trained to think, and I think that's actually a mental break that we have to we have to break through as citizens and as a country. Can you imagine a country that was debt free?
I don't even know if it exists. I wonder if it does. We should look it up. But this is the thing about debt too, is that when debt is so demanding and it takes up such a large space, that's why they're coming up with new tax avenues, new routes to tax people. It's because they're desperate. They need to find new ways to create tax, which play out the movie, this gets worse and worse and worse and worse. So if they didn't need to find new revenue sources and they were responsible, it becomes an easier place to live in, a better place to raise your children and build corporations and employ people. And you can get minimum wage is a big thing because these corporations are being forced to pay this wage. Now, if you're paying minimum wage, you're going, yes, I need that wage to do that. But if the corporations weren't taxed so heavily and everything was in a much more prosperous situation, the corporations could afford to pay more people and have higher quality people and pay raises where they need to. But a lot of the places, like when and I know this is a very sensitive topic, I get it. I'm not looking at every nuance angle of this, but I had a great friend of mine here in Calgary when the wage went up to $15 minimum wage here, he had to fire one to pay the other 15. How does that help anyone? That's what I mean, is the corporation was just barely keeping their nose above water. But now they're being forced $15 a wage because of the government's irresponsible spending, because now this corporation can't afford to keep two people on, so they had to fire one, which goes on EI, government dependent now, and $15. It doesn't help anyone. We're just shifting it around. It's a bad situation. Do
you think the CBC, which is entirely I'm pretty sure it's entirely taxpayer funded, right? The budget is 1.2 to 1.35.
Well, I know they have ad revenue and all that.
Yeah, but that's minimal compared to, I know, for example, it's 1.2 to 1.3 billion dollars every year that's given to the CBC in order to
such an astronomical number. I don't know if people realize how big that number is.
No, if you look at what the budget that we operate on and operating 2 channels and all the stuff that we do, it's an absolute fraction.
1 hour of debt load. That the five that you know, like we're $5 million an hour just to service the debt.
There you go.
We're 45 minutes of that in our entire corporations on 2 channels as a charity and what we do.
So that's the idea of efficiency and responsibility.
45 minutes.
I know, man. It's like, so, but that's the idea of things, how inflated and how bloated these things can become. And money, we all know money can slip away real quick. Yeah. And if you just have this grand idea that bigger government handles all aspects of life, you have so much slippage in money that it actually just affects the individual Canadians where they can no longer afford to have the basic quality of life. 1 in 7 people in Canada are on food banks right now.
Really?
1 in 7.
Holy smokes.
Because your average wage, even in Justin Trudeau's video of about the capital gains tax, talking about the nurse making $70,000 is living a pretty good life. Not in Canada anymore.
Math on that. What do we have? 35 million people?
CBC, you know what? I'm pretty sure they run on 65% of government spending. 34.
That's 5 million people.
It's nuts how much. You think of how much food is, right? Every time I do a little quick trip, like the other day, again, we've talked about this before, but last night I did a quick stop off at Save-On on the way home to pick up dinner for my wife and I and my 2-year-old kid. I bought some basics. Wasn't a lot. Normally, like you walk in 5 years ago, I'd be like, I understand. Things slightly go up, but $30, $40 what it normally would be. It was $96 for a chicken. It was I got some garbage bags. It was like $20 for plastic. Anyways, the thing, it's amazing how much it adds up. I got some beans, I got a salad, and got one other thing. Oh, I got some eggs.
And total?
It was like $96.
Wow. So, can you guys throw that link back up? Because I got to fact check you real quick.
On what?
I just read it, but I forgot it.
You're going to fact check me.
CBC's actually run on 65.6% government funding. So
I just said
my
that.
quick fact check. I'd love to have like a fact check stamp on you. Or maybe a dodgeball.
Hold on.
A dodgeball. You said it. I'm correcting you.
Correcting. I said 65%.
You said fully.
You're doubling up on me.
You said CBC's fully taxed.
Oh, but then I correct myself after.
I didn't listen to you.
Were you looking? You literally just repeated the exact same thing I said.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Here I am imagining a dodgeball that says fact check on it, and I can just whip it at you.
We should
Fact
have that,
check.
man.
That'd be good.
Every time we're wrong, we can
Love
throw
it.
it on behalf of the viewers.
It just gets
I think we
smoked
have
in the
Franco
face.
queued up. Is Franco around? Do we know? Do we need a moment for him? Because Franco is going to bring to us some real good facts
He spits
and
facts nonstop.
yeah, regarding a lot of the corporations and the abuse of money and the abuse of power and all that. So
Yeah.
right on, well, we got Franco Terrazzano. I said that correctly. Federal Director of the Canadian Taxpayer Federation. Welcome. Hey, before we do anything, though, can you just put out your fist for a second? You and I are going to have a quick game of rock, paper, scissors. You got to settle something between me and Jeremy. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors.
Shoot, he did it on shoot. Okay.
That's wrong. You did
No,
it
it's
wrong,
not.
Franco.
You're the only one
You
that's
went
wrong.
on 4. It's on 3. Have you ever done 3?
Franco.
Rock, paper, scissors. No, I meant
No,
to.
you didn't. No, you didn't do it,
This
though.
might just be a little bit of a Zoom mistake. Rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, but it's
Look what he's doing. Dude, I won this argument.
at the beginning of the show, Franco, we were talking about, we just did rock, paper, scissors, and him and I couldn't align on the same moment to see the results. And my kids and everyone I know is rock, paper, scissors, shoot. And that's what you did. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was Zoom's delay. I don't know.
Did you say shoot or did you,
You
end
don't
on
say
rock,
shoot,
paper,
but I'm
scissors?
just saying it's the
I
count.
always go rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah,
But, you know, I was
thank you,
kind of
dude.
watching you through Zoom. I wasn't sure if I was
No.
off, so I just kept pounding
No,
my fist.
You did it right. Jeremy says shoot, and I'm like, that makes
So
no
then
sense.
I looked it up online, and we watched a WikiHow video, and they exactly quoted rock, paper, scissors, and they even said the word.
He's spinning
shoot.
it, man. He
And it was,
cherry-picked a video
you know,
that supported his
It might
view.
be like language, you know. There's the American English and then there's the proper English. Who knows, man?
Oh, man.
Right on, dude. Thanks for being with us. Hey, I want to hear a couple of things that you're up to, but we've been chatting so far today just about the abuse of general spending in Canada from Canadian government, which is our money. It's the Canadian citizens' money, and at the end of the day, Canadian citizens are feeling that more than ever. We've touched on barely, but things like crown corporations with CBC, Canada Post is a crown corp, but they don't take nearly as much or of any like. What did I just say beforehand? Not Canada Post. CBC, thank you. They're taxpayer funded. How much of a bloated group of jobs and everything that's there. Can you talk to us a little bit about, first off, what you guys do and why you're so passionate about this taxpayer federation that you're a part of?
Yeah, so we're the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. I'm the federal director, so I hammer away at the federal government for wasting your money and for overtaxing you. So unfortunately, you know, they keep me very, very busy. So we've been around for more than 30 years fighting for lower taxes, less government waste, and more government accountability. And the reason that this just ticks me off so much is that, you know, a lot of people work very, very hard.
Yeah.
They work very hard for the income they earn and the taxes they pay. And every single cent that the federal government spends is taken from the pockets of Canadians' kids today or Canadians today and Canadians' kids and grandkids tomorrow. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it's like these politicians who live in Ottawa, they live in this elite bubble, right? They don't understand like the hardship that they're putting Canadians through with their inflationary taxes and their inflationary and runaway deficits.
So let me ask you a question then. You obviously understand that there needs to be some taxes for our country to run, but you're just saying it's a complete runaway train that's happening right now with the amount of taxes that keep getting added to Canadian citizens?
Let me give you an example, okay? So since Trudeau has come to power, he's added 100,000 federal government bureaucrats. 100,000 federal government bureaucrats. Like, did he think that there was this bureaucrat shortage in Ottawa before 2015? Like, come on, man. Like, he's increased the number. 100,000.
Holy
Okay, he's
smokes.
increased the number of bureaucrats by 40%. Now, have you seen your federal government services improve by 40%?
Not even close.
Of course not. Like, it's probably getting worse.
Is that the fastest growing industry in Canada
It's
in
got
terms of employees?
40%. It's got to be. It's got to be.
That's
40.
insane.
You know, what's so crazy too, right, is like, remember how this impacts everyone else. Like, this isn't like normal job creation in the private sector, right, where you have more employees because you're delivering more services, so consumers are paying you more to do that. No, I mean, all this is like arbitrary pronouncements made by politicians to hire these bureaucrats, and every single one of them is all paid by taking money from other Canadians' pockets.
Let me ask you a straight up question. Do you think the CBC should be defunded?
Yes.
Why?
Okay, a couple reasons. Number one, I think that every Canadian should have the ability or the choice to determine where they spend their money on media organizations.
Yeah.
Like, number one, it's a matter of principle. I think people should be able to choose where they get their news from.
Yeah.
Number two, I think it's wrong for whether you're private sector media or independent media to have your tax dollars to the tune of $1 billion every single year being funding to your competitor.
Yeah.
So that's the second reason. The third reason is that I think an actual independent press is a crucial pillar of democracy. But how can you be independent or free from government when you get $1 billion from the government every single year?
For sure. And I don't know if you can speak to this or not, and it's fine if you can't. But one thing I noticed that you showed in one of your videos was that their budget went from like 1.2 billion up to 1.3 billion roughly. I might be wrong on the numbers there slightly, but it's increasing. So who in the government goes, thumbs up, you can have more money? Like, how does that happen?
And now it's $1.4 billion.
Oh, jeez.
Right? The feds just gave the CBC another $42 million in their last budget. So now the CBC is costing taxpayers like $1.4 billion this year. And it really comes down to two people. One is the Canadian Heritage Minister who oversees the CBC, right? Pascal St-Onge. The number two person is the Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, who oversees all of the federal government spending. And I guess there's a third person in there as well, and that's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who's at the head of the government on the political side.
And so there's no like, so it's just up to them to say yes. There's no votes on this. There's no, because like we're talking about astronomical numbers of our money that is going to this. And then obviously the very controversial thing, and I think you guys are playing a very key role on this, is you guys are, I think, putting a lawsuit in towards them to figure out about the bonuses, because they're hiding the bonuses. That's correct?
Okay, yeah, so that is correct, right? So everything the CBC spends money on is essentially coming from taxpayers, right?
Yeah.
So a couple things happened here. Let me just take you guys back a little bit, right? So last December, weeks before Christmas, you had the CBC announce hundreds of layoffs at the state broadcaster.
Yeah.
Then you had their president, Catherine Tate, run around claiming they're chronically underfunded somehow, even though they get $1 billion from taxpayers every year, saying the cupboards were bare. So what we did is we filed an access to information request saying, okay, well, are you guys still paying out bonuses to the president and their senior executives? Well, it's been more than 2 months since we put in that request. We didn't get the documents back, even though the CBC told our lawyers that they had the information. They're just not willing to make it public. So we said, okay, enough is enough. Yeah. So we got our lawyers to file a challenge against the CBC, a legal challenge against the CBC with the Information Commissioner to force the CBC to be transparent with taxpayers and release this information.
Which is wild, because like imagine in what world do you get to run a business where you actually don't have to worry about budgets, you don't have to worry about targets, you don't have to worry about this, and as the senior executive staffs, you get rewarded for negative budgets. You are falling backwards, and congratulations, here's your bonus, and the numbers are pretty large. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I think the CEO of CBC got over 145,000 or is eligible for that. Can you speak to that? 145,000 bonus extra.
So we don't actually know what her bonus is.
Yeah.
Right? We don't actually know what her bonus is, but I saw some analysis from Global News who said, well, if she's at the top of her salary range, her bonus alone could be more than $100,000. Like, nobody knows exactly what the bonus is. And I think it's a matter of transparency. Like, if you take money from taxpayers, you have to be transparent with taxpayers.
Yep.
And the CBC is trying to hide Catherine Tate's bonus, and we said enough is enough, and that's exactly why we filed that legal challenge.
Well, my personal opinion is I'm on the same page as you. I was trying to set you up a little bit, but I think the CBC needs to be defunded. I do think that when you've got free market and you allow for that competition to thrive in our country, we are in the television industry. We, in theory, if you're competing for eyeballs, which we are for what we produce with our couple channels that we have, is something that is a clear advantage. And then you have to ask, is this offering a service to Canadians that other places aren't offering a service in this specific industry? Is that I believe it's not. You mentioned something about the media having an obligation. It is a pillar of the democracy. It is, in order for a democracy to thrive, you have to have a media that is willing to inform and essentially be arm's length, more than arm's length.
Accountability.
Accountable, and hold the government accountable to inform the citizens. I agree with you entirely. And it's CBC taxpayer funded, and you have got a lot of other media in terms of they take subsidies and they take lots of different cash from the government in order. You're not going to bite the hand that feeds you, or at least you're going to be extremely hesitant to do that. And I think we've suffered as Canadian citizens to actually have the real facts and the stories of what's going on, which allows citizens to make informed decisions or to act informed.
Well, I mean, I don't have much to add to that because I think that's exactly right. Like, not only should we defund the CBC, we should end all taxpayer subsidies or bailouts to all different forms of media, right? Like, what is the key role of media, broadly speaking, in a society? Well, it's to hold the powerful to account.
That's right.
Well, what's the most powerful institution in society? The government. Whether it's federal, provincial, municipal, the government is the most powerful institution in society, if you had to choose one. Well, okay, let's even say, for the sake of argument, that these media somehow are biting the hand that feeds them. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's not far enough. Because not only must there be no bias in reality, there also must be no bias in perception, right? But if you look at the trust in media, it's declining all across Canada. And why is that? Because people recognize that if you're being paid by the state, you're probably less likely to hold the state accountable if that's where you're getting your paycheck.
So they're a crown corporation. With general other crown corporations, do you find the abuse similar in all of them? Like, obviously we have places like CMHC, you have Via or Via Rail or VIA Rail. We couldn't figure out which one it was earlier. You've got all these different ones. You got Canada Post, which is a crown corp, but they're different in terms of not necessarily taking taxpayer dollars specifically. Do you find that there is a consistent abuse through a lot of these corporations in terms of it being slow, not being efficient with money, not being efficient, like even turning a profit? Do these companies turn a profit? Do you have any general comments?
Canada Post and Via Rail have been losing hundreds of millions of dollars every year for years. Both Canada Post and Via Rail. Okay, so here, let me say something controversial for you. I think both Via Rail and Canada Post should be privatized. Why is the government handing out mail? Why is the government running a train service? You know what I mean? Like, both of these are not like new industries. You know what I mean? Like, if people actually demand the service, allow private competition, private companies to deliver it. Like, are you telling me that private companies can't run a train or can't deliver mail? Like, come on. On the Canada Post, okay, I did a little bit of research on this, and there's a number of countries that either have fully privatized or partially privatized their postal service. Like the United Kingdom, you had Sweden, Netherlands, Germany, New Zealand, Portugal, Belgium. So there's no reason in Canada that we need to have a Canada Post run by the government. Via Rail, same thing. Privatize or sell it off there. And if people actually demand the service, then people would be willing to pay for it. And you'd get it much better, much more efficiently by having private competition in the free market.
Can you explain why it would be better for these places to be privatized? Like, what's the advantage for Canadian citizens?
Okay, so essentially it comes back to just the market. And let me talk about innovation for a second. You might remember this famous quote that necessity is the mother of all invention. Okay? And what that essentially means is that to get any real type of innovation or productivity increases, what you need is actual market competition and market accountability. So when you have a government that monopolizes a service, well, essentially there is no real force on that entity to improve its services, to bring down its costs, to offer better services, and to become more efficient. Why? Well, just take the case of Via Rail and Canada Post. They have been losing in recent years hundreds of millions of dollars every year over recent years, right? But what happens? They don't really have the mechanism of competition in the market to force them to improve. They just get money. In Via Rail's case, at least, they just get hundreds of millions in extra dollars from taxpayers every year.
And if Canada Post gets, because I was looking at the rate of spending that they're doing right now, if they continue to go down this road, they're going to fail. I think they're projecting in 2025. Like, it's not actually very far away.
No more operating income, right?
Yeah.
Like, done.
Now,
which is crazy.
It's absolutely crazy.
And the government, the federal government, is the only shareholder, right, of Canada Post. So what does that mean for the taxpayer, you know? Like, I was just looking at their annual reports, and they lost $3 billion between 2018 and 2023.
Which
Canada
is
Post.
so insane. That's crazy. So if they fail, then the government probably won't let them fail, which means we're going to be on the hook. That's probably what's going to happen, I would imagine.
I think that's a reasonable assumption, right? But okay, so we talked about those type of crown corporations, but there's other, like, especially bad crown corporations out there. There's two. You mentioned the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, but I want to talk about another one, the Bank of Canada.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay?
Go there.
So the Bank of Canada, we talk about inflation, right? Higher cost of living. Well, how does general inflation actually happen? There is only one way for general inflation to actually happen the way it did over the last couple of years.
Printing.
And that is for the government, through its central bank, the Bank of Canada, to print money out of thin air. Okay? Because the more dollars that the central bank prints, the less that your dollars in your bank account will buy. It's too many dollars chasing too few goods.
Wait, Franco, is this economics 101 right here? Like, is this
logic is at an all-time high here.
We should be, at least you think our people who are leading this country should be aware of? Supply demand?
Well, they should probably at least think about monetary policy. You know?
Absolutely.
At least consider it. So here's what happened over the last couple years, which is different than what normally happens in government finances. You had the central bank print, during the height of the pandemic, print more than $300 billion out of thin air. Okay? Now, it did that by buying financial assets. Well, like government bonds, government debt, government IOUs. Now, how did the Bank of Canada get the money to buy $300 billion plus of government assets, financial assets? It did that by printing these new dollars out of thin air. Okay? And this is what leads to inflation. Because while the central bank is printing new money out of thin air, you can't just build new homes out of thin air. You can't just produce more gasoline out of thin air. You can't just make more farmland out of thin air. So you end up with this situation where you have too many dollars chasing too few goods, and that's the inflation tax.
Exactly.
Where you have the central bank using its money printing process to essentially finance these massive federal deficits that we saw.
Yep.
Well, and I also went down this road a little bit with gold and gold reserves, because gold used to, like, I don't know if this is done worldwide anymore, but they usually back the dollar by a certain amount of gold so that it has some substantial backing. Canada apparently has absolutely no gold backing it.
We did the last of our the gold standard was done, right? I believe it was in the 80s. It was taken away, maybe it was late 70s. Yeah. Anyways, Canada sold off the last of the gold that it has in 2016, if I'm correct. But the U.S. dollar has essentially become that. But one thing I want to say, Frank, with what you're saying, because we see a lot of inflation in our country right now. You also look at houses and the cost of housing that has gone up quite a bit. Interesting to look at, well, my house is worth a lot more, so I have more money. Well, we could argue that, no, it's actually not worth more. It's just your dollar is worth less in terms of what you're buying because of what you're saying. Too much money chasing too few goods, correct?
Yeah, I mean, totally. And then to add to this, the inflation fire that we had, I mean, another thing that happened is that you essentially had governments locking down economies for like 3 years, right? So not only do you have an increase in the amount of printed fiat money that the central bank created out of thin air, but you also had businesses, producers, producing less stuff that money buys. So you really did have this like perfect storm for inflation where you had too much printed money and not enough goods to soak up that demand. But folks, at the end of the day, this is the inflation tax. It is a very sneaky, undemocratic form of taxation where politicians are allowed to get away with running their massive deficits, and they finance that with the central bank printing press. It is such a sneaky, undemocratic form of taxation.
And you just summarized what modern monetary policy is, or modern monetary theory is what you just said. As long as we keep paying our taxes, they can keep printing money, and essentially things just keep on rolling. Quick question before we end here is federal government, when we borrow money, just so people who are watching are clear, they borrow money from the Bank of Canada. Is that correct, as you said? They use money?
No,
how does that work?
No. I mean, they essentially borrow money or they issue the bonds to like different financial institutions. So who owns the debt? Well, it could be a whole bunch of different people. Okay. Like people can own the debt in their own pension funds. It could be these larger financial institutions. It could be institutions in other countries. I don't have those numbers broken down, but that's essentially how it works.
So where do you see, if we keep going down the path that we're on, where do you see us in the next year, 2 years, 5 years as a country?
If we keep going down this path,
Yeah.
I mean, it's really bad. It's really bad. I mean, just look at it right now. You had the Trudeau government in 9 years double the entire federal debt. Right now, interest charges on the federal credit card are costing taxpayers more than $1 billion every week.
That's
in
crazy.
fact, it's crazy. In fact, every time you go to pay the GST, every penny collected from you is going to pay interest charges on Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government credit card. Okay, so it's already really bad, but it's just going to get worse and worse. But here's a little bit of optimism, because I don't want to just be a rain cloud. Like, all of this can turn around, okay? And I'm not saying it's going to be easy for politicians, but if politicians just have the spine to say, look, folks, we're going to cut down the size of government because you're paying for an out-of-control cost of government, things would turn around.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's not easy in practice, but it kind of is. Like, people are overcomplicating things.
Yeah.
We need to cut down the size of government.
That's a great point. I think that's our ending point.
Yeah.
Is that there is hope to do this, but we also need people, citizens, to be aware of what's going on in the path that you're on, so you can put the pressure, talk to your local politicians, and let them know what you think, because it's unsustainable, the path that we're on. Any final words, Jeremy?
No, that's exactly it. I think I always go to how. What can we do? And it's exactly what you guys are saying, is research what the policies are of who's running and what they're looking to do. One of the greatest things I've seen is the defund CBC. That's free up $1.3 billion. Like, can you imagine if that money was just given to our healthcare system, or given to poverty, or given to, you could get 1,000 things it could go towards.
Or pay off a week of our interest on our debt.
Oh, that number is so crazy. I can't even wrap my head around that. That's only 1 week. Holy man. Anyway, but it's still, it sucks that we're so desensitized to these numbers, because we're in such an environment of debt that it's the bare minimum of what we know. Anyway, I love that finish. I think you guys are right. We've got to figure out what policies are being voted in and what people are looking at.
Any last words, Franco?
No, I just, really appreciate you guys having me on. And if anyone wants to find more, you can head over to taxpayer.com. That's our website. Or you can follow me on social media at Franco_nomics.
And thank you for proving that it is rock, paper, scissors.
I wouldn't say it's proven, but we have a case to
Franco
figure out.
proved it. Thank you, dude. Appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Franco. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for, we call it saving the show. You actually brought some great numbers and facts for us. Jared and I wrestled a lot today with the idea of being responsible with our money. We need to be aware as citizens as to what's happening with our budgets, what's happening with the money that we create and that we make and that we're being taxed on. Is it being put to good use, or is it being wasted? Traditionally, in history shows us that large, bloated governments waste money, cause inflation, make it harder to live, and it makes it tougher for citizens. And we are currently experiencing that pathway, but we can change that trajectory. So I want to hear it. You guys have to think about that. Are you okay with how much we're spending? Like, there are a certain amount of money that should be spent on. What should Canadian taxpayers' money be spent on? What is a complete waste? Do you think the CBC is a waste of money? Are you even watching the CBC? I know their numbers are low, but let us know. You know where to follow us. There's lots of different social medias at Real Citizen. That's at Real CTZN on YouTube as well. You can obviously social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Rumble, etc., etc. Follow us, like, comment. If you're supporting and liking the show, you know what? When you let other your friends know, share it. That helps us get the word out. The idea of what we're doing is we want to answer the question: if we continue down the path that we are on, what kind of country are we leaving behind for our kids? And we can do this together with all of your help. Also, Facebook, YouTube. Go to returnthereason.com. We got some other great shows with Leaders in the Frontier and Gray Matter as well, always tackling great things. So anyways, thank you guys. See you next time.
Seeking truth and knowledge.